In 2014, you did a really viral commencement speech at UT, and you described the 10 lessons you learned from SEAL training. And you have this great book, Make Your Bed. And you started it with, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Yeah.
Why do you think this resonated with so many people? I mean, millions of people have seen this now and talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's over 100 million have watched this video. And I'm always flattered and a little surprised by it, but in a very pleasant way. But I think the reason it resonates is it is simple. It's not hard to get up every morning and make your bed. And I get a dozen emails every week from people kind of all around the world that say, look, this very simple task has really helped me deal with the challenges of the day. Because when you get up and you make your bed, and you take a little pride in it, then it kind of motivates you to do another task and another and another. And there is just something, it's kind of strange to sound, but there's something comforting, there's something orderly about going back into your bedroom and finding the bed made. I think it gives people a sense of order in a chaotic life. And it's not hard. Obviously, anybody can get up and make their bed. Nobody has to really teach you. There's no complex book about it. And so I think that's why it has resonated. It is simple, it is powerful, and the utility of doing it is played out time and time again.
I thought it was funny you mentioned Saddam Hussein didn't make his bed when you had him in captivity. Do bad guys generally not make their beds?
Well, no, I've told people, I said, just because you don't make your bed does not make you a bad person. But I did have to laugh that I would go in every day that we had Saddam to check on him to make sure that he was appropriately taken care of. And his bed was always kind of rumpled, not made.
Did you really go in and not talk to him at all?
Well, what I didn't want to do was, give him a platform to engage, and it would frustrate him. I would come into the room, he would get up, and I would always motion to him to take a seat, and I would go talk to. I always had a corpsman or a doctor, and then a security guy in the room with him. It was just a small room, probably not much bigger than the one we're in here. Just so I could physically set eyes on him, make sure we were doing what was appropriate in terms of taking care of him. But he would always, and I told my guard, my doc, I said, don't engage him in conversation. If he starts to talk to you, you just don't engage him. And I know that was hard for the guys, because he would want to talk and he would ask questions like, how come El Jefe? He knew even though I took off my collar devices, so he didn't. I had my name tag off.
He guessed who you were.
He probably figured out when I came in every day, and they kind of immediately popped to that I was somebody important to him. So yeah, we just
Did you? I find that whole thing obviously it's fascinating. Did you guys learn a lot from him? He must have known a lot, even though he was a really bad guy. He must have known a lot about what could work in the country or what was going on in the country or the balances of power.
Well, there was early on there was a period where he was questioned about a lot of things. Captain Spiker, who had been lost in Desert Storm, which apparently he really didn't know about Captain Spiker. And of course, there were a lot of questions about the weapons of mass destruction, these sort of things, about the horrible chemical attack on the Kurds. So there were some kind of standard questions. Not a lot of questions concerning how we could take on the insurgency. There was a short questioning period on things that were of importance to the U.S. national leadership and our allies. But then after that, we just kind of kept him in the room until I eventually passed him off.
And I want to ask a sensitive question about Iraq, and it's okay if it's not appropriate.
No, far away.
So a company I started, Palantir, played a role where we especially worked well with some of the special forces groups and the SEALs, and we're really proud of the work we did supporting them. And one of the things they were doing is they were capturing a lot of terrorists, a lot of bad guys, and locking them away. And it seems to me like this has happened a couple of times where you get all the bad guys, you lock them away, and then when we leave, the bad guys escape and become really powerful terrorist groups again. And that was obviously extremely frustrating for feeling like it helped a little bit, and then it happened. Like, how did you feel about that? And are there mistakes we made and that we're not going to make again? Because it feels like it happened a little bit again in Afghanistan too.
Every week, we would sit down with the leadership in Iraq or Afghanistan, and we would go through a legal proceeding with the lawyers. Okay, you captured this person. This person's been incarcerated for X number of months. He's been a good citizen, but where there were detainees that we held that we thought should never be released, in the entire time I was in Iraq, we certainly didn't release them. Some of them went to Guantanamo. Now, is that to say that at some point in time a lot of bad guys got back out into the into Iraq and Afghanistan? Sure, yes, they did. There's no denying that. But some of the really, really hardcore guys, we sent off to Guantanamo.
And it's interesting, you said obviously we're a country of laws, you had rules, right. There's lawyers, there's bureaucrats. I think we're all proud of the fact that we're a country of laws. At the same time, there's natural tension between too many rules and bureaucrats and
right.
common sense. Like, where are we on that spectrum? Have we gone too far where there's too many lawyers slowing things down sometimes? You need to balance it back out, or where would you say we are?
Yeah, in the military?
Yeah, in the military.
Yeah,
some of these operations.
I will tell you, within the special operations community, I was always really pretty content with the rules of engagement and the laws we had to follow. One, as the guy making the final decision on the military use of force, when I say the final decision, uniform guy, now again, Secretary of Defense, President of the United States, would depend upon what the mission was. They were the final authority. But at the end of the day, I'm the uniform guy making the decision to capture or kill a bad guy. And so I wanted to make sure, that I'm doing things that are legally appropriate, things that are, within the right sense of who we are as Americans. You don't want to go down that dark path where you convince yourself that the ends justify the means. If you do that, that path gets really small and really dark real fast. So, no, I never really felt that we were constrained. I mean, every time we had a bad guy that we thought we needed to go capture,
we
were always in a position to do that, and we did it a lot. Now, you've got to make the case to the leadership why this individual's bad, why you think you need to try to capture him. And that was a good process for us. So no, I never really felt constrained by it.
Well, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about another book you wrote called The Hero Code, and you focus on the classical virtues,
right.
temperance, prudence, fortitude, and my favorite, courage.
Yeah.
These virtues have become a little bit old-fashioned, but how do we revive them? How do we bring these back into the core of our civilization?
Yeah, I think we just don't spend enough time talking about the people that have these virtues. And in the Hero Code, when I'm thinking about, what are the kind of the 10 virtues or qualities that I wanted to identify, interestingly enough, I actually had to go back and say, well, what is a hero? We tend to call everybody heroes nowadays. And so I actually grappled with, what is a hero? And then I decided, well, maybe I should go to the dictionary. Maybe the dictionary will help. And sure enough, the dictionary said, a hero is someone we admire for their noble qualities. And I liked that definition. I said, I got it. Noble qualities. Okay, now let's outline the noble qualities. And there's a quote from Churchill, I think, that's in the book, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but something to the effect that, courage is the most important of the qualities because it guarantees all the rest. The point being, if you don't have courage and you're not prepared to defend the other qualities, whether it's forgiveness or sacrifice, then those qualities won't exist. You have to find men and women that are courageous. And of course, my first story is about Lieutenant Ashley White, who was part of the cultural support team in Afghanistan. Remarkable young woman who signed up early to be part of these teams that went with my Rangers and SEALs into combat. And from everything I know, she was a remarkable lady. And every day, she'd strap on her gear and hop on that helicopter and go out on a mission. And unfortunately, in 2011, she was killed on a mission with a couple of Rangers. But as I began to kind of find out more and more about her story, it was clear to me that she exemplified courage. And I found when I left the military, I think I say this in the book, you're in the military and you think that these qualities of courage and sacrifice are only unique to the military or the first responders, and you find out that's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, everywhere I went when I was the chancellor of the University of Texas system, everywhere I've been since then, you see great Americans that have tremendous courage, that are sacrificing a lot. Certainly during COVID, you saw it with the healthcare workers. But, Hurricane Harvey, I was chancellor when Hurricane Harvey hit, and you saw the people of Houston and the surrounding areas kind of come together and do things that were incredibly courageous and had all the qualities that that we think of, and yet they never served in the military. They weren't first responders. So I think those qualities are out there, Joe. I just think we don't spend enough time. We tend to look at all the bad things today, and we highlight the negative aspects of our culture when sometimes we need to focus on the positive.
You spend more time highlighting real heroes and real positive values.
Yeah, there are a lot of them out there.
It does feel like the greatest generation, as you mentioned. Those little boys and girls grew up with heroes in the past, and they heard about courage a little more, maybe.
I do think that there was, again, social media has disrupted a lot of how we view ourselves, I think. Because we tend to highlight the bad things because they seem to get more clicks, we forget that there's an awful lot of good going on out there. And I'm convinced that it is out there and out there in abundance.